and welcome to the Wrestling Republic Daily Broadcast. It is Saturday, March 4th, 2023, and we're going to be talking SmackDown today. Of course, we had Friday Night SmackDown last night, and it was a decent enough show, but we're going to break it down segment by segment. So joining me today, I have got with me both to my... I only had one way to point and I still messed it up today. To my right, we have Anthony Ricciardi. How are you, Anthony?
Doing good. I'm looking forward to the show.
Nice. And how are you, Clark, as well?
Never better. It's a sick weekend for wrestling, combat sports all around. We got Revolution tomorrow. We got the return of the best to ever do it in MMA tonight, John Jones. I'm hyped. I'm stoked to be here once again. I'll be here again tomorrow. It's just, It's a good weekend.
You're never not here.
It's a good point. Well, I was in Vegas last weekend.
Yeah.
For once.
But yeah, we're going to have a great show today. And of course, you mentioned Clark UFC. Maybe perhaps if you have some time, we might throw it to you at the end to give your predictions for the card. Who knows? But let's firstly get on to last night's episode of SmackDown and specifically what opened the show. Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes face to face. So the show started with Roman Reigns coming out with the Bloodline minus Jey Uso. And yeah, he went to start cutting a promo and out came Cody Rhodes very, very quickly. Cody came into the ring and basically said, you know, it's just me and you. Nothing's going to go down. So why do you have, backup here? And it was at that point, Roman actually told Solo and Paul, he told Heyman to go first, then he told Solo to go. He never, unless the mic didn't pick it up, at least what I heard, never actually told Jimmy to go, but Jimmy went too. And he never brought that up later in the night. So I think that might have just been an accident, or maybe the mic didn't pick it up, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention. But yeah, that was one thing I noticed during it. But yeah, it was a really solid promo. Roman Reigns basically said that he's not here to say anything bad about Dusty Rhodes because Dusty Rhodes taught him everything. In fact, Dusty Rhodes predicted that he was going to be a WrestleMania main eventer. And yeah, Reigns cut a fairly nice promo, actually. But yeah, I mean, right, it was nice until he said that he never actually mentioned Cody. And that was the one line in it which made, Roman come across as the heel very clearly. And yeah, Cody then basically went on one of his well-articulated promos saying that he now needs to win at WrestleMania to prove that, he is Dusty's son. And it came across as Cody cannot lose this match. It almost, if it wasn't obvious Cody's winning after this promo, it's like he's buried. He's completely buried himself. It's AEW all over again, where he said he's never going to fight for the world title if he lost that. But yeah, it was a good segment. But I mean, Roman did not come across as a heel in this, really, apart from that one line, because at the end of it they shook hands, and it did seem like Cody got one up on Reigns a little bit, and Reigns actually he came out of it feeling slightly weak, if I'm being completely honest here. And I know, Clark, you spoke on yesterday's show about how you were slightly worried that Roman is coming across slightly weak at this point. So you were hoping that, maybe he took some people out last night, but that never really happened. But what was your thoughts on the segment, Clark?
It's funny because I hear where you're coming from on Roman coming across weak, but I actually didn't feel that way initially. When I watched it, I thought the opposite. I thought Cody came across weak. Roman was clever and confident in what he said and putting the belts on the ground. And then when he put both over the same shoulder, I found that fascinating. And I found it, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but what made the segment for me was that he put the Universal title over the WWE title, which is the one that Cody's talked about from minute one.
And covered it something else
with the blue belt. I don't know if that was intentional, but putting them on the ground was one thing. He put the WWE belt on the ground first. But I loved him covering. I don't know if it was on purpose or not. I hope it was. But covering that WWE belt with the Universal belt was brilliant. And then the subtle jabs. I thought Roman came across as the mafia boss. I'm the one to be scared of, and that's why he extended the hand.
One thing with the titles,
came
though, to
across
talk
weak.
about the title point you mentioned, not only that he faced, I don't know if you noticed, like he faced the WWE title at Cody, turned the Universal on the other way round to face him.
Right.
And that was a very interesting take, which quite a lot of people are talking about.
When
And
it was half
apparently
folded as
Roman
well.
switched it, so it seemed like it was deliberate that he wanted that imagery of the WWE one facing Cody with the Universal facing him.
Yes, I found that fascinating, and it was interesting too because you could tell Roman thought about it because the blue one or the Universal ended up half folded. It wasn't laid out, as if it were in a photo shoot like the other one was, right?
Yeah.
It was kind of crooked. That to me was my favorite part of the segment, that dynamic. But I thought Cody came across as, if I'm in Cody Rhodes' shoes and he says things like that to me about my dad and things like that, I'm not keeping my composure. And even if I'm a babyface, it seemed too much self-control, not self-control, but like too much being like the humble babyface Cody. That would piss almost anybody off.
No, certainly.
And that came across as a little bit weak or soft to me.
Yeah. I mean, the one defense I guess I'd have is that every single opponent he's faced in WWE so far has been going on about his dad in some way, shape, or form. So, I mean, maybe he's just a bit numb to it at this point. But, Anthony, what were your thoughts on the segment?
I don't think it was Cody's best promo work in that. I didn't really care for his response. It was a little weird where he's talking about Paul being the messenger and you believe this. It was a little. I wasn't crazy about that. I do agree with you, Clark. I could totally see that being intentional with what way he laid the titles and the way he put them on the shoulder, because the whole bloodline angle, there have been these little Easter egg, little hidden things. One of the things you pointed out was like Sammy with the different shirts. He was always a generation behind whatever the new bloodline shirt. They do these little things, and I kind of think they are intentional at times. They'll never tell you if it's not. But it's, it was a different type of segment than we've seen. Typically it's okay. It's a face-to-face. They're going to end up fighting. There was no fighting involved. So I thought that was at least a little different than what we are used to. Roman, it almost like he was trying to play mind games with Cody. And when Cody didn't back down, you saw kind of a look on Roman's face going, shit, that didn't work. Like it was just brief, but like it did look like he had that look of going, I thought I was playing mind games with him, but he seems to be wanting to go head to head. So it is interesting. But like I said, I don't think it was the best promo work for Cody. I was surprised they opened the show with it. I thought they would have closed the show with it, to be honest. So that surprised me a little bit.
Yeah. And I mean, I almost thought, and we'll get into this later on, but I almost thought the reason they opened the show of it was because they were going to do a big angle with Roman at the end of the night, and they didn't. Mm-hmm. So I'm a bit confused. And the one, not issue, because they still have, I think, 4 SmackDowns. I think.
3.
But yeah, they 3 or 4 SmackDowns left, and they have a few Raws that probably Roman might come to as well. But it just doesn't feel intense enough of a storyline. They did, to be honest, up until last night's segment. They were both finally in the ring, and it just felt like they shook hands. They shook hands. Yes, there was a bit of, like Cody was fired up slightly, but they still shook hands. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess they don't want to properly, fire the bullet on it too quickly. Maybe they can let it burn and then like next week onwards. They don't want the flame to burn out, perhaps.
He likes the slow burn. Hunter likes the slow burn. So I could see them doing that.
Yeah. And I mean, Heyman as well. Like you mentioned these small details and that we'll never know if they're the truth or not, but it is something. Heyman's not too involved in creative nowadays. The only thing which he's really involved in massively is the Bloodline storyline.
Anything with Roman,
yeah. I mean, we talk about how on earth is it the same creative team booking some of this stuff? Of course, it's not Heyman, isn't the only one booking it or whatever. But the fact that Heyman does have quite a big involvement in it actually could be a reason why it's so good
Yes.
as well. And Heyman at times, some of his storylines have been hit and miss over the years, but when he's just focusing on one thing like he's doing now, and the amount of details he can focus on, I feel like that's been fantastic. And I mean, perhaps that is something which WWE and other companies too need to look into in terms of storyline specific writers. So one writer, focuses on a storyline and
story.
reports to somebody. Yeah, and I mean they've done stuff like that
Consistency.
over the years, but I mean it's really worked with the Bloodline stuff. But yeah, moving on then to the next match, we had Rhea Ripley, the Women's 2023 Royal Rumble winner, take on Liv Morgan, and this was actually quite an enjoyable match. Of course, Rhea got the win, thankfully. Glad she didn't take another loss on the road to WrestleMania, but we didn't see Charlotte, and nothing really was built towards the Charlotte match. I don't know why she was on SmackDown. Did Charlotte have some issues traveling to SmackDown? I don't really know. It was a bit of a weird one, to be honest. But yeah, Anthony, what were your thoughts on the match?
I mean, it was a decent match. I mean, there was one moment when we were watching it, Clark and I were watching it, where Liv jumped off and did, and I don't know if she has a different name for it, but it was that top rope code breaker.
Essentially, yeah.
Rhea took it in a really weird way. Like she took it, like it was very strange the way she took it, and I don't know if that was intentional or just an issue with it. But that is a valid point about Charlotte not showing up, and I don't know if I don't think she's working a reduced schedule, but didn't Rick just have a birthday though? Maybe they did something with Rick. I think his birthday was this week, wasn't it? Or was it?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I'll check for you right now. But I mean, even still, why was Rhea booked on SmackDown then? It just doesn't really make sense.
Maybe because of Dom. Because of Dom.
Oh, that's true. That's
Dom later in the night, she played a bigger role in that match.
Yeah, I think she was there for that more.
Personally, when we were watching it, to your point, Anthony, I found it fascinating. That spot was really interesting. Liv delivered it perfectly, flat on her back, knees in the right spot, and Rhea just went down in a weird way.
Yeah,
I thought Liv came across bell to bell. I was glad they gave him time, but she looked better bell to bell last night than Ripley did in that match. There's no doubt about it. Ripley hit the Riptide at the end for the win, but it almost looked like, I mean, Liv dominated the majority of the middle of the match. Her offensive moveset looked on par in every single spot. The one that looked awkward wasn't even on Liv. She did her job on that spot, and it's a dangerous one at that. And that's no knock on Ripley, because then she comes around and hits the Riptide later in the night to get Dom the win and look great, and she looks powerful. But back to Ben's point about no Charlotte, it made even less sense to me because of that. It's like, so you get her a win in the win column, but by the eye test, it didn't look like it's a legit challenger to Charlotte. Unless the plan is to push Charlotte's gonna kick the crap out of Rhea Ripley till she gets hit with a Riptide and it's ball game. Unless that's the plan, I don't know.
It was a win in the record books, but as far as the match goes, Liv got way too much offense for somebody that's not challenging for the title.
It's stiff. They're really not booking Rhea good, are they, in the build-up to this? I mean, they've not really booked it that well all year. I mean, she's done well in storylines. Everything she's been given, she's done well in. But I mean, in terms of an actual singles competitor, she's not been booked that well all year. Which is why I was surprised she won the Rumble. And I think it was Kobe, or maybe it was somebody else, said in January that the reason they have me building up is because they didn't want to, essentially push her to the top picture too soon, because they wanted to save her for WrestleMania. But they've done awful since with her. I mean, it's not great, but I mean, we'll then move on. And the next segment, we had Roman Reigns telling Jimmy Uso that he is running out of patience. And Jimmy was like, no, Jay just needs time. And Roman goes, I'm not running out of patience with Jay. I'm running out of patience with you. And the crowd went, ooh. Actually, the crowd barely went, ooh. The crowd was actually really weird last night. I spoke about a weird crowd a couple of weeks ago, but last night, they were dead for most of it. I mean, I don't know, but we'll get back onto the Roman Jimmy stuff in just a little bit. But then up next, Santos Escobar confronted Dominic Mysterio and was like, you're insulting your father, blah, 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 blah. El Legado del Fantasma, they just have not looked great recently in terms of they're booking. It's not been great. But yeah, anyway, they did Escobar versus Dominic Mysterio. It was a decent enough match. Dominic, of course, got the victory. But El Legado on the main roster has not been nearly as successful as I hoped it would be. I mean, what are your thoughts, Clark?
Yeah, I thought this one was almost as weird as the Liv and Ripley match because Dom basically the finish was that Dom stole the win with Ripley's help, but Dom got in arguably more offense than Santos did. Santos didn't even appear like he was going to win the match or like he was the veteran. Dom was step for step with him the majority of the way till like the one babyface comeback at the end, and then Ripley puts the puts the halt to that plan, and it's like, yeah, it was a fine match, and Dom's good in the ring, and Santos is good in the ring, but I don't know what it did for anybody other than maybe Ripley hitting the riptide on Santos and that being enough. Yeah, I was confused by this one as I was how Liv looked better than Ripley in the opener.
Yeah, what about you, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, Escobar is a tremendous talent, and he's not getting used right. I mean, at least he's in a sort of quasi angle that is a respect for Ray, but like he's going to be sacrificed because he's not in the WrestleMania plans. It's clearly they're going father versus son. Like I've been saying this for a while. Although in the article that I wrote, I said Dom would be a Guerrero. He essentially is a Guerrero, just without the Guerrero name. It's kind of funny that WWE did that right after I did the article. But as a whole, the booking really doesn't make much. The booking hasn't made sense outside of the Bloodline. Nothing has really made sense. When you look at the card, it's like, okay, Asuka against Bianca. Okay, that makes sense. Charlotte and Ripley. Okay, the Rumble winner, got it. Cody Roman, Rumble, got it. Everything else has just been kind of, look, we're just going to throw darts on the board, which, it's very weird. It may be a great show, and I'm hoping it is, but the road getting there seems like we're taking extra steps that we don't need to be taking. Like, it's very weird how they're getting there.
Yeah, no, I truthfully, honestly agree with you bang on there. I mean, a few things about this WrestleMania. I mean, in terms of the booking, it is confusing me, especially with like how good the Bloodline stuff's been. And that the weirdest thing is the Bloodline storyline. I was meant to be Rock versus Reigns. They had to change that one, and it still feels more organized than a lot of the other storylines. But it's whatever. But talking about whatever, the next segment annoyed me, and I mean, you guys know I have a go at AEW about consistency and stuff a lot. Well, I'm about to have a go at WWE for the exact same thing. Drew McIntyre came out to challenge Gunther for an Intercontinental Championship match at the show of shows, WrestleMania. And yeah, Sheamus came out, and Sheamus was really, really offended about the fact that Drew had just challenged Gunther, saying that Drew knew that he wanted to challenge Gunther. And I mean, the interaction between the two was actually really good. And yeah, then LA Knight came out. He actually got a huge pop. He was getting big reaction from the fans, and I only just mentioned how rubbish this crowd was. But he was getting a great reaction. The New Day then came out, and then Karrion Kross came out. It was a bit of a brawl, whatever. And yeah, I mean, it was a fine segment. It was a bit messy. There was a few people there who were like, why are they here really? But whatever. They're setting up a Fatal 5-Way next week to find out who will challenge Gunther at WrestleMania. But the thing that annoyed me wasn't the actual segment itself. It's the fact that last week McIntyre came out to confront Gunther and he got attacked by the Viking Raiders. Well, what happened to that storyline then? It's gone. They just decided, it's like they realized, oh crap, wait a second, we don't have enough time to finish the storyline, so we're just going to abandon that. And yeah, the Viking Raiders are now going to be facing Braun and Ricochet next week. So, It's beyond me. Really, really bad oversight for WWE when they did that angle last week. It makes no sense. Frustrated me because you guys know what I'm like with consistency. But Anthony, what were your thoughts?
I mean, realistically, for the IC title, I know they did it at a house show. I want to say it was MSG, with some of the same people, but not the exact same group of people. I know they did a ladder match for the IC title. I'd actually really like to see that with these people involved in a ladder match with Gunther on the grandest stage. I think that would be a potential show stealer, depending upon what night it's on. I do agree with you with the Viking Raiders. I mean, it's really a dead end feud. Realistically, they're not gonna put the Raiders over Sheamus and McIntyre. It's just, I agree with you, but I almost think it may come back up. Maybe it leads to a Mania match between the two teams, and they break apart Sheamus and McIntyre. Like, I think something's going to happen with that, but realistically, I would love to see those group of people in a ladder match for the IC title at Mania. And if you wanted to bring in the Raiders to cost Sheamus and McIntyre, you could. I wouldn't, but I could see them doing that if they wanted. But the IC title, I would love to see that showcased on WrestleMania because it's frequently not included on WrestleManias. At least for the past several years. I don't remember off the top of my head if it was defended last year or not, to be honest. But I think Gunther has really elevated that title to mean something again. And that used to be always the workhorse title. Yeah. Whoever beats him, it should mean something. So I'm completely okay with them elevating him. And if he beats 5 guys at Mania, he beats 5 guys at Mania. Or if Sheamus wins it. And then they do Drew and Sheamus for the IC. They could do that too. Yeah,
they absolutely could. And Bell is here in the comments saying that they'd be down for a ladder match for the IC title at WrestleMania. And Soul is also in the comments, and he's saying maybe they should do an 8-man ladder match. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I hate ladder matches when there's over 6 people. Over 6 people was complete overkill. Didn't really happen until a couple of years ago. I mean, WWE did 1 year for the Money in the Bank, then we're like, yeah, this is a rubbish idea. And since then, it seems to become a thing in wrestling. But yeah, I hate it. Keep it 6 max.
But also, by the way, though, aren't we going to point out, I mean, Soul being our resident Cardonologist, isn't he the one who won the last 8-man IC ladder match at a Mania? Was that Matt Cardona? I believe it was an 8-man ladder match. It was either 8 or 6. It was either 8 or 6.
I think it was
the
6,
serendipity of Soul suggesting the 8-man match, if it's Cardona that won the last one.
Do you think he's going to be one of the 8 Soul?
Comedy to pass up. I'm sorry, Allison. I couldn't keep my mouth shut on that. That's comedy.
Well, I mean, perhaps this is another one of Soul's predictions. That Matt Cardona is returning to WWE.
I believe Zack Ryder won that one.
I mean, that was a hell of a WrestleMania moment too. And I mean, the next night involved kind of just killed his career. But whatever, right? And Soul's pointing out in the comments that last year was Apollo Big E. I believe you're correct there.
Yes, it was like the Nigerian
thing. That's right.
Something match. Yeah, remember they had all like the drums and stuff on the outside. And then Commander Aziz debuted. Boy, what a run did he have?
Only last year.
I believe so. No, that had to be 2 years ago.
Okay, so Cardona substituted Neville in the ladder match at 32. So for anybody wanting to know, that's now Pac and A.
How many guys?
AEW. I'm looking.
I'm pretty sure.
Please tell me it's
I wanted to find which WrestleMania it was, and now I can look.
It's 32. I could have told you that one. That was my first WrestleMania watching it live.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Scrolling.
Mine was 11.
I'm going to tell a story on the podcast really quick, guys. Me and my friends were watching WrestleMania 32 live, and when Shane McMahon gets stretched out, we thought he died. 7. We both us.
It was Zack Ryder, Kevin Owens, Dolph Ziggler, Miz, Sami Zayn, Sin Cara, and our friend Stardust.
Wow. Oh, Cody Rhodes was in that match.
Stardust. That was his last one.
Yeah, that was.
Before he came back last year. Yeah.
Yeah. And so me and my friends were watching WrestleMania 32 live, right? We stayed up to watch because, of course, we live in the UK, right? It was the first one we watched live as it aired. And yeah, Shane McMahon did that dive, got stretchered off. We thought he died. So me and my friends, I think we were like 14 at the time, recorded a video like sending our condolences to the McMahon family. Like we actually thought he had fully died. Like we were getting ready to post. That's how much they got us.
Hilarious. That's iconic.
But what did you think about this segment, Clark, and where do you think they're going?
I mean, I don't know, man. Anywhere. Which segment are we talking about again, by the way? I just got
The
distracted.
IC. The IC.
Oh, the IC segment? Yeah, they're going hopefully 6-man ladder match and not 8-man, right? That's where I'm at. I mean, anything but I don't know. I thought McIntyre Gunther made a ton of sense. If you're gonna have a ladder match, have a ladder match. It'll be fun. Don't do 8. I agree with Ben on that. 6 is perfect. And if Kofi Kingston's in it, that'd be cool just to have him on the card in an IC match. And also with the history of like Money in the Bank multi-man ladder matches at Mania, I think it makes a little bit of sense to do a multi-man IC match. And I don't have a problem with it as long as everybody's properly featured, and it gets the right amount of time.
No, I do agree with you there. I mean, the only reason at all why I'd be against this, and also I'm against this, is just the only reason I wouldn't be super for it is I thought the idea of Gunther versus McIntyre versus Sheamus, that triple threat, would have just been. But I think this would be great too. And I a ladder match at WrestleMania, a multi-man ladder match, I'm a fan of, to be honest.
Definitely.
But let's get on something that we're not all a fan of. And that is this Bobby Lashley Bray Wyatt feud. So Bobby Lashley came to SmackDown last night, and actually the way that they did it and the commentators seeming genuinely shocked, I actually really enjoyed that. Yeah. It made Lashley feel important. But Lashley came out, basically said that, the crowd were awful for this as well, but basically said that Wyatt won't come to him face to face, so he came to SmackDown to see Wyatt face to face. And yeah, Uncle Howdy attacked him from behind before Lashley made Uncle Howdy look really weak and awful, and then Uncle Howdy disappeared. Is there anything else to say? I mean, I thought Uncle Howdy was meant to be the mastermind behind it all, who was, so smart and all of that. And I mean, Bell is here in the comments saying that they liked Bobby's shades, and that was about it with this.
I agree with you, Bell.
Yeah, what did you think, Mark?
I would add, Ben, is were you watching with us? Me and Anthony noticed it.
Yeah.
It didn't look like the same Uncle Howdy. You looked half the size. Yeah, I'm like, is that Finn Balor in the Uncle Howdy outfit? Like, it doesn't. I mean, we'd been talking about Bo Dallas, or was it Vincent from Impact potentially being Uncle Howdy? We don't know for sure, but Bo Dallas, we kind of decided consensus-wise.
Yeah.
It didn't look like Bo Dallas in the suit last night. Did you see?
Like, I don't know if you heard it. It was blatantly Bo Dallas.
Was it?
It was the first time since he debuted that it was blatantly him. As when he spoke, it was clear as day. He didn't even have the voice. He just spoke normally when he was shouting in the ring.
Oh, I didn't catch that part. But well, he looks like he's lost weight, or maybe it wasn't Bo before. I don't even know.
It's been a long time since we've seen him too.
That's threw me for a
and
loop,
also
though.
The jacket usually as well. The jacket
might
did have
size
jacket on, but still, it was moving because of the motion.
Either way, yeah, I don't know. Confused. And Bobby Lashley does not fit the bill for a Bray rivalry right now. It just bothers me.
Yeah,
but it is what it is.
I mean, that is a fair point. And so here, I'd rather watch full NWA pay-per-view than Bobby versus Wyatt. I don't know if I'd go that far, but yeah, I do agree that it is pointless.
How about just give us Bobby Brock on an NWA pay-per-view and see how they book that? That would be interesting. 2 big men on a big man show.
Yeah. What did you think, Anthony?
There's no match going into Mania that I have less interest in than this. I'll be perfectly honest. The problem is Bray Wyatt's the type of character that no one is going to benefit with a feud from him. They're really not. The fact that LA Knight somehow survived the cluster mess that was the Mountain Dew Pitch Black, want to get the full name right. The fact that he's able to survive that and still the audience cares about him is amazing. There's a reason why somebody like Brock probably didn't want to work this. There's no benefit. it's a character that it's designed to bury other people, but yet he's not getting over either. There's a small group of people that think Bray's phenomenal, and then there's everyone else looking at it going, what is this crap? So Lashley essentially drew the short straw in this mess. I don't see how he benefits from this. I stand by what I said on a previous show here. I would have rather seen Bobby versus Brock in a fight pit, and that would have been it. You could have had that. There's zero reason for Brock versus Omos. There's zero reason for Lashley against Bray. That's my opinion on that.
I completely agree. I agree with you then. I agree with you now as well. The one thing, though, I'm going to give a bit of a hot take here. Despite how bad and honestly terrible the feud was, and the match was especially, I actually do think that LA Knight came out with that feud with Bray Wyatt better than he was before it, purely because when he debuted on the main roster, and, you know, admittedly he debuted with the Maximum Male Models and all that rubbish, but even since then, even since he became LA Knight again, he was getting little to no crowd reaction. He really was. Like, he was bad, to be honest. Which was the first time in his career that he's ever experienced that. Now, the Bray Wyatt feud, he carried that feud. So I don't know if, you know, I don't know if you can necessarily say that Bray Wyatt, well, not necessarily. I don't even know if you could say the drawing power of Bray Wyatt's why he, you know, came out better. But yeah, I actually do think that LA Knight came out better. Now, part of that probably was because he was the only good part of the feud. But I mean, maybe part of it was Bray Wyatt's drawing power. But in fairness, I think he is actually one of the very few names who came out of working with Bray looking better than before. So, yeah, in my personal opinion, we can't use that one as an example.
I think it was more LA Knight than the Bray feud. I think LA Knight's such a phenomenal talent on the mic that he draws you in to get you interested. I really think it was more him than creative booking or even the Bray feud. I think he was just given the opportunity. He was able to be himself, and that worked. That's why he's drew in interest when he was in Impact or the NWA or whatever. You can't teach that mic work, and he's phenomenal at it.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness as well, they did for like, I think it was 6 weeks before the Bray feud that he was LA Knight, and yeah, that's not much time. It is a good point, but they did try stuff within those 6 weeks, and there was a dead reaction. But I mean, that Bray feud was his first proper feud though too, so perhaps it would have happened no matter who he would have faced. And Saul's asking what should LA Knight be involved in a WrestleMania?
I say
if we're doing the ladder match thing, then it's going to be that because he's in the match next week, qualifying for it. But
you mean you guys don't want to see him wrestle Uncle Howdy? I'm kidding. That was a joke.
Well, and
to be clear, I don't either.
Clark in the Cinnamon Toast Crunch match. Is that where we're going with this?
Yeah, in the Cinnamon Toast FO match. No way.
There's been that rumor. We have no idea if that's true or not.
Wait, it is. It's true. That wasn't a rumor. It was confirmed by one of the WWE executives. That's where it came from.
Well, they're going to announce something. I had it. I'm good.
Maybe it's Brock and Omos. Maybe the winner of that.
He's going to get Cinnamon Toast Crunched.
Can you imagine if he FIs him in the Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
I'd love to. Suddenly, I'm all for Lesnar Omos.
I just want the Brock one-liner where he tells Omos he's going to Cinnamon Toast Crunch him. That's what I want. Is in a promo. I want him to slide that in there. I'm going to Cinnamon Toast Crunch you, Omos.
Are they going to release a Cinnamon Toast FI Crunch shirt?
Yes.
That will be the shirt.
Cinnamon Toast F5 Crunch.
Yeah.
And I've got one comment to show you, Clark.
Yes.
Soul's latest comment. I hate that stupid cereal.
Porridge it is. Whatever, dude. Just keep reading the Three Bears.
Salt as well. No sugar, salt.
Salt.
That's what Soul has. Salt on his porridge.
This one's just right. This one's too hot. This one's too cold. This one's just right.
Let's get into the main event, which was Solo Sikoa versus Sami Zayn. And I said on yesterday's show, when this match was announced, while we were on air, that neither man should win. They should do a disqualification. This would have made sense, you know. It all goes chaos. The Bloodline thing's chaos in a minute. It would have worked. It would have worked well. But instead, Sami Zayn lost. And yeah, he didn't lose clean, but it didn't take much for him to lose. It's probably slightly hurt Sammy's momentum. It just wasn't necessary. I mean, Solo shouldn't have lost either, but Sammy losing just didn't sit right with me. But yeah, whatever. After the match, Jimmy tried to attack Sammy some more with Solo. I thought Kevin or Cody or somebody was going to come out. Nobody did. But yeah, Sammy ended up getting the upper hand, and it made Solo and Jimmy actually almost like weak at the end. Well, I mean, actually mainly Jimmy, to be honest, because Jimmy was the one who was instructing Solo. And I think that was the point in it. I think the point was to make Jimmy look weak, to, go into what's happening next week. And like we said earlier on, Roman Reigns has said that if Jay isn't back in the Bloodline next week, then Jimmy is out. So is Jimmy Uso going to be out of the Bloodline? And Anthony, I'll go to you first. What did you think about this match? And then, is Jimmy out of the Bloodline? Is this where they're going with this?
I mean, it was an okay match. I didn't really expect too much from it. But, as far as the Bloodline, this person being out, that person being out, I had said on this show, I thought this was going to end up like Scar in The Lion King, where the hyenas turn on him. I have a feeling he's pissing so many people off in the Bloodline that it is going to play out like that, where they are going to turn on him at Mania, whether it's during the match and costing him, or post-match where they just take him out. Like, I really think that's where it's going. If it's not at Mania where they turn on him, it's the Raw after, which would explain Roman being, out for however many months he'll be out. I really think that's where it's going. They're planting the seeds where they're going to get fed up and they're going to turn on him. Yeah. The head of the table is going to be taken out.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have stolen my prediction from yesterday, Anthony. But
I said the Scar thing weeks ago.
That's true. But yeah, no, I do completely agree with you there. That I think it's going to be at Mania, and I'd love it for just Solo just not hand him, for Solo to be the last one left, and Solo to just not hand him the chair, and then Roman after. So no, I don't even think it should be the Bloodline completely turn on Roman or take him out, because then Roman looks like a babyface. I think it really should be as subtle as Solo doesn't give Roman the chair. Everyone else has already left. Jimmy's had enough. Jay's properly, after the match with Sammy, and Kevin has lifted up their hands and all that. Jay then gets a face run or whatever in the singles division. But yeah, Solo doesn't give Roman the chair at Mania, leading to Cody ended up getting the win cleanly. But it's just Roman wasn't able to cheat because of Solo didn't help him and went against the plan. And then Roman Reigns can return just before SummerSlam and just beat the absolute hell out of Solo Sikoa. And yeah, I think that's we spoke about this on the podcast a few weeks ago, that the issue is how to make Roman come out of this match. How if once the Bloodline turn on him, how to have him coming out still as a heel. Because yeah, that's the issue we're gonna have.
I think he would still be the heel, though. It's essentially they're getting abused and they're turning on the bully. Like, I think he still remains the heel, even if they turn on him.
We don't overestimate how smart a lot of the audience is, though. A lot of their WWE's audience is kids as well. That's the one thing. But I mean, perhaps you'd like to think people are smart enough, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to think about. I certainly think SummerSlam, Solo Sikoa versus Roman Reigns. Bucket. I was going to say bucket Vince. Bucket trips.
Jay. So
Jay.
I think Jay's.
I like Jay at SummerSlam. I like Jay personally.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on the match? And do you think Jimmy's getting kicked out?
I don't think Jimmy's getting kicked out just yet. I do think, obviously, that I think they're going to nudge it along, and then push us over the cliff almost, right? I don't think Jay's out right away. I think eventually that it'll work this way, but I think Jimmy, I'm sorry. I think Jimmy isn't out right away, but it'll work itself out that way. And then I think Jay is the logical one at SummerSlam over Solo. I think it's too power on power with him and Reigns. I like the power finesse versus him and Jay. They've proven it in the ring multiple times. They can put on a heck of a match, and for a return, that makes the most sense to me. And also, I mean, I found it interesting. This is just a random side note, but I mean, heck, They're twins, and we saw the ratings for WWE 2K23. J90, Jimmy 89.
Yeah.
That's telling.
Yeah.
That's telling to say the least. You
Yeah,
know,
that must be.
there's a reason for that, right? And I think that I think Jay Roman is the return match, and I think Jay is gonna. I think the whole bloodline aspect of the storyline, not just the Cody Roman stuff, the way that plays out hinges on Jay more than it does Sammy or Kevin or any of the outsiders. When it comes to that situation, that'd be my take.
Yeah, I mean, here's my prediction with the Bloodline storyline in terms of following WrestleMania. I think obviously Reigns will be out until SummerSlam. He needs that break, but I think SummerSlam they do. So sorry, I need to quickly go back. I think in the draft in April, they're going to split up the Usos. I think Jay's going to go to Raw. Jimmy and Solo will both be on SmackDown. But I think that at SummerSlam it's going to be Roman versus Solo. Roman's going to come for Solo because Solo was the one who, was the final straw and was the person who Roman thought was just with him all along. So it's going to be Reigns versus Solo. At SummerSlam, Reigns is going to win. Then at Survivor Series, it's going to be, or maybe not Survivor Series, but at another pay-per-view around then, they'll have Reigns versus Jimmy Uso, and Reigns will also win. Then at the Rumble, Reigns then heads over to Raw, or Jay heads over to SmackDown, whatever. And they tease that for a while. They're teasing the big Jay thing for a while. Jay's having a hell of a singles run on Raw. Jay comes over, or vice versa. And at the Rumble, they do the big Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns match. After being built up for ages. And Roman Reigns gets the win anyway, leading to The Rock versus Reigns at Mania, where Reigns also gets the win. Then in the next year, at SummerSlam the following year, Solo Sikoa versus Roman Reigns once again, and that's when I'd put over Solo, because Solo is the young guy. He is the one who is, he's got years left with the company, and he could become the top star, in fact, one of the company's top stars, I think, going into the next generation. So I think he should actually be the one to go over on Reigns. And while I undoubtedly agree with you guys that Jey Uso is the money match right now, undoubtedly, I'd save it for the Rumble to be kind of the final, not final boss of the remaining bloodline or whatever, but the big match before the Rock one happens. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot which could happen with this story, and then there's a lot that I'm very much excited for. I know you, Anthony, you've been, for the longest time, a big fan of this storyline, and it has become an absolute, truly banger. I mean, we've just been here fantasy booking this. Wrong most weeks, to be honest, but fantasy booking it all year.
The phenomenal part about this, and I know I've said this before, is it doesn't matter how long you've been watching. You think you know where it's going, and generally most storylines you do. This may be the best written one I've ever seen in wrestling because it keeps you guessing, and it reminds me a lot of the show Breaking Bad.
Yes.
Where the writing was so good, and you're going, oh, they're going to do this. And then they went, no, we're doing this. Oh, I didn't think about that, but that's even better. Like, that's how they've been booking this. So, I mean, unless the payoff is Game of Thrones final season bad, I don't know how you screw this up. The rest of the card is all, they're just spitballing. But it's like a beautiful mind is putting together this thing where everything's mapping together and figuring out and working.
Absolutely.
That's the best part of it.
I mean, the last 24 hours, we've compared this storyline to The Sopranos, Game of Thrones, and now
Beautiful Mind. A Beautiful Mind.
And a beautiful.
Don't forget, I also threw in Lion King. I threw in Lion King.
We're like 5 for 5 cinematically.
Very, very quickly, though, guys, before we bring this show to the end, Clark, Gain or Gane or Jones tonight?
I got John Jones by unanimous decision. He's the best ever. Step inside the octagon. 3 years away. He weighed in at 248. He's the underdog. That's even scarier to me for a guy with Jones's mentality. I think he dominates it virtually from start to finish.
So new champion tonight, you think?
I think we see John Jones win. I think Valentino retains. I think Bo Nickel by submission in the first round. I think Gamrot gets the win in his fight. And I like in the 5th fight of the main card, I think Rachmanov is too much for Jeff Neal. And so those would be my 5 on the main card there. Rachmanov,
nice. But we'll have to wait and see if Clark's predictions are right tomorrow. And also on tomorrow's show, we will be talking about AEW Revolution predictions. So make sure to tune into that. I think tomorrow we might be going an hour later at 9, which is 4 Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific time. But thank you guys for watching. Please leave a thumbs up and comment down below, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.
10 a.m. Hawaiian.